Hello and welcome to episode 1467 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Thursday, January 29th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this afternoon by Justin Mason. Justin, how's it going?
It's going well. It's beautiful out here. It's sunny. Actually, so sunny that I am finally, after, God, I've living here 6 years. I'm finally going to order a blackout shade for my
Boom.
freaking, because I'm tired of certain times of the day
At,
being blinded.
I had to at my old place. It had this half circle window up
Uh-huh.
there, and the sun would just pour through it. Getting a blackout half circle was a game changer. So I do fully recommend that. Did you guys get anything? I know a lot of the nation was getting the cold, but did you even get California cold?
I mean, we've gotten cold, but
I just meant this weekend during like the
yeah.
ice and snow stuff.
I mean, not bad.
Not
Not.
unseasonably so or anything.
No.
If you came here today, I could not convince you that we just had a nice storm. It has all gone. It's 68, so it's all gone. So again, I would be telling you, and you'd be like, "You're gaslighting me. Stop lying." I'd be like, "No, everything was frozen over. You couldn't go anywhere for 2 days. It was insane." And you'd be like, "Paul, stop." And that's just how quickly it goes away here. Thankfully, it wasn't too bad. Didn't lose power at all. We had our space heaters. We had a full fridge. Shar and I were good to go over here. So let's talk some shortstops. We are on a little bit of a shorter time today. We're closer to 45 than an hour. So we're going to be doing part 2 of 3 because you went deep on shortstops with your list, which I appreciate. And I don't want to give tier 6 short shrift. There's a lot of guys I want to talk about in that tier. So let's do tiers 4 and 5 today, and we'll do the rest of it tomorrow morning, Friday morning on the 30th. So let's get into tier 4 at shortstop here. And again, we're using 5-game eligibility. We're probably not going to do that next year, much to Justin's delight. But we are doing 5 this year. So if you do play in something that has that very wide net cast, then you can get them. And, you know, we usually acknowledge when, oh, this guy doesn't really qualify here, but only in the shallower formats. But we got Betts, Mookie Betts, Nico Hoerner, Geraldo Perdomo, and Jeremy Pena here. Very interesting group. Just got done listening to a deep dive talk about Geraldo Perdomo on PitchCon, which is going on now. If you're listening to this the day we make it or the day after, or actually any of the 3 days after, it's going until through Sunday. PitchCon on pitcherlist.com, on their Twitch. Justin and I will be part of it. It's just all day, all baseball stuff. It's awesome. If you've done Potapalooza with Justin, if you're familiar with that, this is very similar. This is actually kind of the first event. This is the Golden Globes, and then you're the Oscars, or however you want to work that. Because are you gonna do Potapalooza this year too?
No. I made the
I set
decision.
all that up, and then it did not happen.
I made the decision to retire Potapalooza.
Okay.
With the explosion of PitchCon and everything else that happens in spring, it just became
the calendar's it has exploded,
Yeah.
right? Like when PitchCon and Potapalooza started, it was to fill in the winter calendar, right?
Yeah.
Like we had doldrums really until we got to March. Well, now, like you said, we had 2 tentpole events. Other things have popped up. Drafts are going from before the season ends, so that never really has a slowdown at that point. So I just think there's more stuff. There's first pitch in Florida, which is usually in like late February. So there's just a lot.
They don't do it anymore.
Oh, but they got rid of it too. So PitchCon ran everybody out. But that's all right. PitchCon is a wonderful event.
It was an amazing experience, and I loved doing it, but I
always had a blast with it.
It was very difficult, right? Like
Absolutely,
like Nick has a staff of 60. I've got a staff of me.
Yes.
And so like running 2 straight days
that you were able to do it.
Yeah.
Like alone.
I mean, it came out of, for those who've been listening to the podcast for a while, it came out of a conversation of you and me on the podcast joking around about doing a marathon podcast.
Yep.
And that's how PitchCon was born. Because
Potapalooza, you mean?
Potapalooza was born, and then PitchCon I think came the following year, and like it was an amazing event, and we raised a lot of money for a lot of really great charities.
It was awesome,
and I'm looking forward to continuing to support PitchCon and what they do. But yeah, for me, Potapalooza just became too difficult with all my other commitments.
I think that's good for your mental health too, right? Yeah. Again, we have a similar tentpole event in the winter. So it's not like there's a big gap. If there was nothing, I'd probably, be lighting the fire there for you to keep it going so that we had something like that. Since PitchCon is there, it's easy to kind of say, okay,
Yeah.
no Potapalooza. All right, let's get into this tier 4 here. Well, I mentioned Perdomo was talked about as a potential bust hitter, and we'll start with him, even though we're not going in order there. I don't necessarily agree, depending on what you're expecting, right? We always quote our boy Scott Pianowski. I know Jeff Erickson does it over at RotoWire too. Regress to what is his big thing, right? Because it's easy to call regression, especially on somebody like Geraldo Perdomo, who just had a career year. To say he's going to regress and nothing else is not analysis. It's pretty obvious. But that to what is really the question for everybody. And for me, I think I'm with the projections where I'm going to slice the home runs almost in half, from 20 down to 12, 13. Can he be upper teens and still into the 20 range again? Yes, I think Perdomo can. I think he has enough pop to do that in a Jose Ramirez sort of way, where he makes enough high quality contact, even though he's not a StatCast monster, to pop 20. But I'm going to plan for 12, draft those extra supplemental homers around Perdomo so that I don't need them. And then if he does happen to say that this is real and hit 17 to 20, then I'm all good. But I believe in the average. I believe in the steals being at least in the 20s, if not 27 again. And I think he can go 90-90 on the runs and ribbies. I think there's a lot here to like with Perdomo. I am going to buy, even though it is off of a platform year.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and for those watching the YouTube, you can see I've put up this Savant page, and you can see, like, in the power metrics, there's a lot of blue. Like, I would not project 20 home runs again. I think that is right. Maybe I'm not going as far down as 12, but I don't have a problem with that. I'm probably closer to the 15 range. What it really comes down to for Romo is health. Like, is he going to be able to stay on the field for, 600 plus plate appearances? He had never done that at the major leagues prior to this last season. And he got 720 plate appearances, played 161 games. So, like, I think the big issue is you've got to project down just the raw plate appearance numbers.
Absolutely.
And get that
720 is crazy for Perdomo.
Yeah, get it into like a 575 kind of range. And with that, I think you're looking at probably 14 home runs or something like that. I do think you can kind of comfortably say, like, hey, he's probably good for 20 stolen bases, maybe even more than that. And I think the batting average is fairly legitimate. Maybe he does not hit 290. I think he's probably closer to like a 275 true batting average. But he makes a good amount of in-zone contact, actually elite in-zone contact. He does not swing outside the zone. 19% O swing is elite. A 4% swing strike rate. And I mean, he's had 4% swing strike rate in each of the last 2 seasons. So it's kind of like, yeah, he's just not a guy who's going to swing and miss a lot. I think Perdomo is like, I don't know, like Jeremy Pena plus. Like,
yeah.
Like that, that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's exactly it, and I got no problems with Jeremy Pena. I actually just took him in the AFL.
I like Pena a lot. It's an accumulator on a good team. You'll take that all day long.
Absolutely. So Perdomo goes 86, Pena goes 93. They are the 9-10 off the board. So I think that comp it makes a lot of sense there. I do think that maybe the power speed is just a little bit better with Perdomo, and that's why I would be comfortable taking him just a bit earlier. So then let's lead that into Pena, who has quietly now, when you go back and look at his record, put up, 4 straight seasons now of just solid quality work. He broke out as a rookie with the 22 homers, and I think everyone thought, oh my God, the next great shortstop has arrived. Mm-hmm. But there were telltale signs in the profile that said that power was not necessarily super believable. It came all the way back down to 10 the following year, and then he's worked his way back up 15 and 17 the last 2 years. Add it all up, though, it has, again, been 4 quality fantasy seasons here with double-digit homers, double-digit steals, 20 steals each of the last 2 years with those 15 and 17 homers. Is there more that he could add on to 25 when you look at the fact that he only played 125 games? Or would you rather be more comfortable projecting a full season at 17-20? So same counting numbers, but with more volume.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of who he is. And again, I think the batting average regresses. His XBA was 272, so I would not
Oh,
expect
he outran
him.
that a good bit then.
Yeah, it was a 345 BABIP when he was pretty much like a 315 BABIP, his entire career. So I like that. That's going to regress back. But this is an accumulator profile, and especially for those of you who play in deeper leagues, you love these guys, right?
Yep.
Because they are just going to produce. He's going to play every day. He's going to be on, batting in a good spot in a good lineup. You like these guys because they're consistent and they're not going to fall off the map in the way like, O'Neal Cruz type would,
That's
right?
exactly who I was thinking. As soon as you said fall off the map, that was exactly the name I had in my mind as well. So I'm totally
It's
with you.
boring volume, and he's still young, so you're not worried about skills degradation. The reason I have Perdomo above Pena is largely because the underlying skills on Perdomo are just a tad bit better. He makes more in zone contact. He swings outside of the zone less than Jeremy Pena. Pena is still above average in zone contact, but he swings outside the zone 35% of the time and has a 13% swing and strike rate. That's going to lead to, just more strikeouts or more weak contact when he swings outside of the zone at a bad pitch. So I think that Pena is fine. He's good. He's a great deep league shortstop. But those of you playing 10s and 12s, you're going to shoot for upside. And so Pena may be a guy you want to skip over.
Yeah, like I could see waiting for even Seager or Bichette or Story cheaper. Over
I
Pena.
would take two of those guys in Seager and Story over Pena, like in a 10-team league, just because the upside's so much greater, and you can find another you can find a Pena type on the wire sometimes.
Totally agree with that. But both are solid here with Pena and Perdomo. Let's go back to the top of this little tier and talk some Mookie Betts. He lost all that weight from getting sick at the beginning of the year, right? And there was a big panic. And then he came out firing, and everyone's like, well, maybe we overreacted. Maybe we shouldn't have done that, right? It was like because he hit 2 homers in the first series. I think it was even against my Tigers. And he was looking fine. He did wear down as the season went along, which would make sense based on something where you lost a ton of weight, right? If you were more slight and not as well built, losing stamina as the season goes would make sense. It was really in the dog days, though. He closed strong with 6 homers and an 899 OPS in September. So I don't know if it was the sickness that cost Mookie Betts a bunch of weight, or if it was just an up and down season for a 32-year-old that still ended up pretty damn good. Now, he did cut the speed in half from 16 to 8, but still had 20 homers, 258, 95 runs, and 82 ribbies. Not too bad.
Yeah, it's so hard to know what to make of this.
I agree.
Like, this was probably the hardest player I had to rank out of the shortstops, just because I can make excuses for him.
Right. Like, you can take him off the hook for the struggles.
Yeah, and like his last stolen base was on August 3rd.
You have a hard time making an excuse for this.
I have I have a really hard time with the stolen bases. The idea that stolen bases might come back. If anything, I think there's a realistic chance that like he steals 5 bases this year.
Because 16 wasn't that special to begin with, right? Which he had 2 years ago for Mookie Betts. So that's part of it is like, it wasn't even that great to begin with, and now you cut it in half, and you're 33 trying to play shortstop here. I think there's reason to be very cautious on Mookie Betts' steals, even if you like him because you think the average can go back up and you think the power and the runs ribbies are fine. I would probably still project 10 steals max.
Yeah, Betts is a guy that like I want to believe in because he's a really fun, likable player. But I do worry about like what we're going to get from him. Like, and yes, I think we can blame at least a fair amount on the flu that he got that made him lose, I think 25 pounds or something like that in spring. Because if you look at like the months to months, like he was fine the first 2 months of the season. But like then I think maybe just the lack of body weight catches up to you in the middle of the season.
I can relate.
He's not a big guy to begin with. So if he's losing 25 pounds, like that could be a reason why the power numbers were kind of so low. And you see the last 2 months of the season, all of a sudden, hey, he's been able to like get back into playing shape after really struggling. And he was great the last 2 months of the season. Hit 3 home runs in August, a 288 average, hit 6 home runs in September with a 299 batting average. Like, okay, there is a realistic chance that like we get that 6 home runs, 299 version of Mookie Betts for a full season in 2026. Or there's a chance that like, hey, maybe it wasn't the sickness and this is just kind of the beginning of the end. I don't think it'll be a complete, fall apart, but like if he only hits 20 home runs and steals like 5 bases with like a 270 batting average, you're going to be really upset you drafted Mookie Betts where he goes.
Pick 65 is where he's been going this month. Again, I'm doing just since January 1st. That's 31 draft champions leagues. That's not cheap. Again, both Perdomo and Pena go at least a full round, a round and a half below him, if not more. In addition to all the guys behind him, I'm a Betts stan pretty much his entire career. First saw him at Arizona Fall League. I was like, this guy's awesome. Who is this guy? And I want to be a mega fan, but I got to be real and say I don't think I'm paying that price this year. And the last 2 years we've had some debate on him where I've been paying that first round price and then even that second round price when he was discounted, and you've been cautious, and it paid off to be cautious last year. I think keeping that caution makes some sense this year. I'm not sure the discount is enough.
You're still passing up on really, really good talent. You're passing up on, from the hitting side, Bryce Terang, Rafael Devers. And like for all of like Devers' warts that we talked about in the first base preview, like he's still going to hit 30 home runs.
Yeah.
Like you can't say that for Betts now. Like, you can't. Like there's a realistic chance, like especially being shortstop only. Now that he doesn't have second base and outfield eligibility,
another good
like the value you need to recoup from your shortstop spot with shortstop being so good and deep is a lot more than the floor of Mookie Betts is.
Yeah. Again, 33. I just don't think we can fully bet on the buyback immediately, and I just was looking for something a little bit cheaper to get there. Now, he's got a max of 80. I don't know how many times he's dipped down there. If he's going over there, I can get back on Betts because then that's right by Perdomo. But at 65, I'm out. Nico Hoerner, the last of this group here, he's rabbity, right? Like he doesn't have much pop. What was his steal total last year? I'm trying to remember. I'm just going to look it up here. He had 29. I usually want like, a premier steals total to be a rabbit, but he has been in the past. 43, 31 the 2 years before. Again, a single-digit home run guy. One time hit 10, but then 9, 7, 7. The average usually a strong bet, including a 4-year high at 297 for Hoerner. This feels like a more of the same type of guy, right? And he's not... I don't think he's completely out of pocket at his price point. He's more of a second baseman, but he's picked 105. Do you have any reservations about what Hoerner brings to the table?
No, I mean, I love Hoerner. I'm a big Nico Hoerner guy. So, especially, what did you say his ADP was?
105.
Now, we have to remind people he is not eligible at shortstop.
8-game eligibility. So this
is in most formats. And that's one of the reasons I really do love Hoerner, too, because second base is terrible.
Yeah, so...
we're going to talk about this more next week. So maybe we don't need to go too deep into it.
I was going to say that.
Like, second base is terrible. And Hoerner is a guy that can produce a ton, especially a ton of stolen bases and batting average. Like, Nico Hoerner is just an elite zone contact hitter. So those of you who know, I love zone contact. I mean, everybody should know that at this point. But, like, Nico Hoerner, like, 95.8% zone contact is among some of the best players in all of baseball in terms of that zone contact.
Bankable average.
Yeah, it's third best in baseball behind Steven Kwan and Luis Arraez. And unlike Steven Kwan, Luis Arraez, like Hoerner actually produces in other categories. He's going to be really good in runs scored. He's going to be really good in batting average. Yes, you're going to be at a deficit in terms of power. You're going to be at a deficit in terms of RBIs. But that's the trade-off. Like, you get a guy who hit 300 and steal you 30 bases and score you 90-plus runs.
You're building a team.
And, like, in spite of having, like, injuries, right? The reason why Hoerner was so low last year in the ADP was because he had off-season shoulder surgery, and there was the talk that he might not be ready for the start of the season. In spite of a few injuries, like he's played in at least 150 games or more in each of the last 3 seasons.
Dude, I mean, I couldn't have said it better. I'm sure we'll expound further even at second base, so I'll leave it for that. But I like Nico Hoerner a lot as well. Let's go into tier 5. And, we started the top there with the two guys who are amazing when they play. Amazing might be overstating a little bit for Story's triple slash, but fantasy-wise, he was amazing last year, 25 and 31. And then Seager's the other one who is just amazing when he plays. But with Story, he's very scary because, Justin, he had not played more than 94 games for 3 years before that. And so you're really just betting on the health, right? And you're risking, can I get another healthy season? And the net of it is 113 a price point that you're willing to take the Trevor Story gamble?
For me, it depends on depth of league, right? In a 10 or a 12, yes, absolutely. I'll do it all day long because I know I can go to the wire and grab someone when he eventually hits the IL. Okay? Because at this point in Trevor Story's career, being 33, like you have to assume he's going to hit the IL at some point, even though he didn't last year. Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, yes, he played 157 games last year, but the last time he played in 150 games was 2018. Like you said, like the 3 previous years in Boston, he didn't even crack 100. The 2 previous years in Boston didn't even crack 50 games played. So, like, last year is an aberration in terms of playing time, and there is a massively low floor if he only plays 43 games again or something like that. That being said, the upside is immense. He turned back into not the player he was in Colorado, but a version of the player he was in Colorado. Yep. He actually had the highest average exit velocity, highest max exit velocity, and highest hard hit percentages of his career. And threw in speed on top of that, stealing 31 bases, which was the most stolen bases he's ever had in a single season in his career. He dropped his strikeout rate below 30%. It was at 27% last year. That was the first time since Colorado he's been below 30% strikeout rate. Yes, he doesn't walk very much, but like there's power in this bat. They let him run. And with that contract, he is going to play every single day as long as he's healthy.
Every day he's upright. Trevor Story's in the lineup, ready to go. And I mean,
the question is, can he stay healthy? I don't know. He's 33. He's got a litany of histories or litany of injury history. Like it's very risky. Like do
you ever get there in a 15-teamer? I mean, you have a lengthy list for us to dive into.
Probably not
here. I was going to ask if the depth gets you there ever in a 15-teamer.
I just honestly, there are other guys at shortstop where I go, I can just pencil in the production, and so like I'd rather go Dansby Swanson. I think I'd rather go Willy Adames.
I do like Adames. They're not bringing that speed though. And you would have won a bar bet on me that third. I don't know what I thought Trevor Story's tops was, but I think I thought it was like 35 plus. But 31 last year is a career high, like you mentioned, and easily, by the way. 27 was his previous. He never reached 30, and he went 31 for 32. So this wasn't just spamming volume. This was sharp, brilliant running, and I mean he was so damn good. And I have to credit the market here. I don't think pick 113 is an overreaction.
It's not.
As good as his season was, if he was going top 60, I wouldn't agree with it, but I would understand it given how good he was. But I think 113 is actually a pretty measured, spot for the risk. And I can find myself pulling the trigger. I agree with you that I'm more inclined to do it in Shower League, but I part from you in that I will not rule it out in a 15-teamer. Because I think shortstop's deep enough that I can get a fun backup just in case, for when I lose Story. Because again, we're going to be planning. I'm not projecting him for more than 125 games just to be smart.
I think if I take him in a 15, it's in a draft where I've already taken a shortstop.
I'd like him as my MI. Not that they're not equal in value, but I can put a second base. It opens the pool for what I'm replacing him with. I totally agree with that too. Yes.
Especially if I have one of the top 4 studs where I'm like, okay, I'm going to like lock in like massive production and then volume. And then all of a sudden I'm looking at, like, I get to that like 115 pick and I go, I just don't love anybody who's here. That might be a point where I go, all right, you know what? I've got locked in production already. And if I lose him, I can replace him with a second baseman or a shortstop.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a scenario that I'm liking a little bit more.
That middle situation is very appealing to me, to widen my pool to replace him.
And if I do draft Trevor Story in any league, my MI is going to be a shortstop.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. If he's my starting shortstop, you definitely. Those are small little edges that you want to think about, especially when you're drafting injured players. Kind of build in some of that coverage. Great add-on there. All right, let's move over to Seager, who presents some of the same issues. Obviously, gives you a different profile, but has that same, sort of Damocles injury history. Not as extreme. 102, 123, 119. We're at least hitting triple digits. But again, those are not resounding game totals for Corey Seager. And yet, he was mega elite in the 119 game season of 2023, and then just standard elite in 24 and 25, including 30 homers in 123 games in 24. Just 21 last year. That was the 102 games. But, what you got out of him for 102 games plus your replacement still earned you value at shortstop, unless you just totally tanked the replacement value. But I know Seager's been somebody you've always wrestled with and usually leaned away from because of his injury history. Is pick 107, where's that putting you on the spectrum of drafting him right now?
I mean, I've got similar concerns, right? It's honestly Story plus, right? Like he obviously doesn't steal. Corey Seager doesn't steal bases, right. But like if you could guarantee me 140 games, I would take Corey Seager every draft I could. Like,
same.
You don't even have to guarantee me 150.
I think I would take him in the second round.
Yeah, I'd probably second or third round. Yeah, like
third maybe, but like I would take him higher. Is what I'm saying. If you said $140 for everybody,
every draft, because like if I knew I could get a full season at Corey Seager, like it's an MVP caliber talent. Like
exactly,
he may not win MVP, but he is an MVP level talent. You look at this StatCast page, and like it is unreal how red those top 6 columns are.
It's beautiful.
Like WOBA or xWOBA, XBA, xSlug, average exit velocity, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage are all 92 percentile or better. He's just such an amazing talent. Like I'm not worried about the talent at all. It's all about the health. So like in your shallower formats, 10s and 12s, all day long, I'm instant clicking. I'm not letting him get out of the top 100. Like I'm really not in a 10
totally
or 12
agree with
team
that.
league.
And just to underscore that is because the waiver pool is going to be deeper in those shallower formats. Just for those that maybe don't play in those leagues, and you think, why do you always say that? You can replace an injured guy much easier. Sure, it's higher for everyone, but it's just much easier to get a quality option.
Yeah, I mean, in a ESPN or Yahoo league where you're only drafting 180 to 260 players, like you can get, Jacob Wilson is pick 180, right? Ezekiel Tovar is 194. Xander Bogaerts is 223. Like you can go get a guy who's going to be playing every single day off of the wire, and in those leagues you typically have IL spots. Like those leagues, I'm insta clicking Seager. And honestly, in 15-team leagues where there's IL spots, I'm very tempted to do it. Like I will figure it out when he goes on the IL because I'm going to get elite production when he's in the lineup.
Yeah, again, co-sign that. I've always been a bigger Seager guy than you because I'll
it's
take
always
on
been
the
about
risk,
health,
but it's always been healthy.
Price.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I was never going to make sure that you're not out on him as a talent. You never have been, even when he was a Dodger. You're just always concerned about the health, and rightfully so. It has come up snake eyes every year except 2, folks, 2022 and 2015 in terms of 150 plus games. So if we bump it down to 600 plus plate appearances, you get a third year, 2017 in there. But that's not a risk everyone wants to take, and I do understand that for a 32-year-old. Let's go back to your guy who you briefly mentioned a little bit earlier, Willy Adames. I say your guy because you are, of course, a Giants fan. Year 2, I think he acquitted himself well enough last year. 30 and 12 wasn't the same as 32-21, and the average definitely cratered from 251 to 225. But I don't think people were like, oh my God, my season was ruined because I took him. What does he do for year 2 in San Francisco? Do you like Adames to be better, the same, or worse?
The same probably. The batting average will be dependent on that BABIP. His BABIP was 263 last year, so he hit 225. The previous year in Milwaukee was 297. He hit 251. So like where the BABIP falls will be kind of where Adames. Now he is a career 301 BABIP guy, but he hasn't hit that mark since 2021. So this is one of those instances where like you kind of throw out the career and kind of more average
Let's
it
see
over
who
the course.
He is.
Yeah,
recently.
Especially now in a much bigger park, much different type of atmosphere. He's gonna hit for power. Like I think you're gonna get 28 to 32 home runs in San Francisco. You're gonna get double-digit stolen bases, but just barely. The team around him is getting better, but it's not great by any stretch of the imagination. So like I think he is a very, very good player. The real question is what the batting average is going to look like. And it's just hard to predict year to year. He makes league average zone contact. He's around league average O swing strike rate is 12.7%. So you're looking at like 26, 27% strikeout rate. Like,
right.
So I can see that batting average go from 220 to 250. That's hard to kind of manage. I think you need to make sure you've got a good batting average base before you draft someone like Willy Adames.
I think so too, because 251 is easily the 4-year high for him. Over that time, like you said, dipped down to 2.25 last year. It's 233 in that 4-year span for Adames. I see him as boring volume, which you also tagged Pena with, and I think they both fit that category in different ways, right? Because they deliver different volume, and of course their batting averages are vastly different. So they go around a similar area, not the exact same area. But if you need boring volume in the form of power in the counting categories, you would go Adames. If you need it more in the form of speed and average, you would go Pena. But I think they are very similar in terms of the guys that you can bank on, as close as you can to bank on anything, for 150 games, they are very high at the shortstop tier. And so is this next guy who, is a wonderful defender, and that's why he just doesn't leave the lineup as long as he's healthy and upright, and that's Dansby Swanson, who 160, 162, 147, 149, 159, he plays, and he's kind of another boring volume guy who kind of is in the middle of those other two. So I think, if you're looking at it as a spectrum where the power is all the way on one side and the average and speed are on the other, you got Pena one side, Adames one, and then you got Swanson kind of in the middle there with 24 homers, 20 steals, but a 244 average. So he kind of gives you a little bit of each side there. I like him as another kind of boring, solid guy. How do you feel about Swanson? You've always liked him.
Yeah.
Not really, obviously. But you've come around on him. It's been a long-running meme that, he was super overrated and you tagged it. Mm-hmm. Like you called that out easily. And then he came all the way around to where he was underrated and too cheap.
And I think now he's kind of perfectly rated.
I totally agree.
Like, I think this is kind of where Dansby Swanson
147 ADP.
Yeah, 147 is like fine. Like, that's perfect for Dansby Swanson. Like, if you miss out on, the top tier shortstops and just want to wait for a guy that you can get consistent production from year in and out, hits in a decent spot in a good lineup, like, it makes a lot of sense. And he is a guy in 15-team leagues that I'm going to be clicking a lot more often than I will in a 10 or a 12. But, like, I think in a 10 or 12, he plays pretty well, too, because you're getting, probably 20-20 production, with an average that doesn't kill you at the shortstop position. So, and he plays, like you mentioned. Like, he has played in 147 games or more in each of the last 5 seasons.
That's huge.
So you'll take that all day long. He's going to stay on the field.
And just playing around his average. He's going to hit 240 something.
240 something isn't as bad as it used to be. Like, exactly. That doesn't hurt you.
That bar is way high. Like, the 240s hits the bar way higher than it used to. So Dansby, again, boring accumulation that has value. Jacob Wilson might play his way into something like that. I could see that down the line where he plays his way into like a, Nico Hoerner facsimile type, because he has that same sort of mega contact profile, although he doesn't really run as much. So maybe that
No,
comp
he's
is
not
a little
fast,
tortured.
yeah.
It's really only the contact piece there. But he developed some power last year that was really surprising. He ripped 13 homers, and I thought this was going to be a single-digit guy. That's my biggest question. I think the batting average piece is something that you can bank on from Jacob Wilson. Maybe not 311 projected, but projecting like the 270s, 280s and feel comfortable there. Where does this power go? Was that just a blip spike, or is there something to work with here where in Sacramento he can be a firm double-digit guy, Jacob Wilson?
Well, that's the interesting part because he actually hit 6 of his 13 home runs on the road.
I know. Wasn't that crazy?
Yeah, but he also did hit 9 of those in the first half. Or really before the end of June. Now he did get hurt. He broke his forearm.
Yep.
So maybe we chalk up the kind of the power outage. Going from 9 first half home runs to 4 is like people like that's not much of a power outage. You didn't really have a ton of power to begin with. But
hey, when you don't have much, it is a power outage.
Yeah, exactly. For him, it was a power outage. I think that playing in Sacramento will allow him to stay in the double-digit homer range. But this is never going to be a guy who hits 20 home runs. He's never going to be a guy who steals 20 bases. What he is going to do is win batting titles. And I do think that this is a profile that at some point will win 2 or 3 batting titles for the A's. He plays good defense up the middle. Like, I think he's going to be fine. But this is one of those guys you have to kind of plan around. And I think you saw with it last year, if you're banking on him for batting average, like what happens when he gets hurt, right?
Exactly. That's the tough part about those average locks.
Yeah, like all of a sudden you were expecting 600 plate appearances from a guy, and he doesn't get 600 plate appearances because he's hurt. How do you find the guy who's going to replace the 200 plate appearances or whatever that you're missing?
I think the real thing there is you really, really, really have to be careful to not be putting too many eggs in one basket when it comes to average and speed specifically, because that's usually the two categories that we talk about having that happen to you. Your Chaniel Simpson gets sent out. What are you going to do for speed? You can take guys like that, but it should never be your only solution because, you are just putting it all on them, and then you're going to fail if anything happens to them. And so, I think you supplement average with somebody like Wilson. You don't make him carry all of the load.
Exactly, 100%.
Bichette could actually be somebody who picks up some of that slack. He's going to be heading out to New York to play third base. Obviously, he's not going to qualify there until the season gets going, but he's going to be playing third base, so he'll be dual eligible, which means he'll also be corner middle, which is fun. How do we feel about Bichette out in the Big Apple?
I don't love it. I'm not going to lie. This was yes, he's going to a good team, but you had to expect any team was going to be willing to pay for Bichette's production,
right.
or at least the kind of contract he was looking for. It was someone it was going to be a good team. So you knew he was going to end up on a good team. This is not a great park for power. An X home run in New York would be 15.
What did he hit last year?
He had 19.
Frame of reference.
Yeah, he had 19.
Okay. So he would lose a little handful.
He's going to lose a little power, and he's not a super powerful guy to begin with.
Right. You got his page pulled up here.
Yeah. And now he could run more. The Mets ran a lot more.
But they got rid of the guy, and we don't know. We don't know. They got rid of the first base coach.
This is why I said he could run a little bit more.
Yeah, it's scary.
And yes, he hit 311. And he's
Amber's
always
color of his energy.
he's always been a good average guy, but I don't know. I feel like Bichette goes too high for what he is.
I share some of your reservations here. I've never been, well, I shouldn't say never like this year because I'm in only my second draft, Arizona, and now this one. But I don't think I'm gonna be pulling the trigger at 110 that often, if only because of the depth that we've talked about. All the other guys that we talked about are behind him except for Pena and Seager and Perdomo.
Yeah, and
everyone else behind him: Story, Adames, Swanson, Wilson. Not that I would. I still prefer Bichette to Wilson.
He's going two picks away from Corey Seager. Wouldn't you rather just take Corey Seager every time?
Of course.
I don't see a world in which, like, outside of like Corey Seager just getting hurt, but like Bichette has had injury issues consistently over the last few years too.
Hasn't played more than $140 since 2022. A
Why
couple buck
take
30s with 600. I want to be clear there that like he hasn't been
he hasn't
Corey
been
Seager, but
but like he hasn't been super healthy either.
exactly.
Like, I'll take Corey Seager every single time.
Same.
Like,
And they're basically the same ADP. And then the next group, that Story, Adames, Swanson, is all a little bit cheaper. Swanson or Story will call the same price, 110 to 113, but I'd rather have Story. And then Adames and Swanson, I can save a little bit, and I'd rather have them over Bichette. So I'm with you. I got some real concerns about Bichette. Not even all based on him, but where he goes and the depth of the position is why I'll probably be skipping over him.
yeah, absolutely.
What are you doing with Xavier Edwards? I know the Marlins are trying to put some things together to be a bit more competent team. They got somebody like Jacob Marcy and Kyle Stowers to really break out last year. I really believe in Marcy. I don't not believe, I know it's a double negative. I believe a little less in Stowers, but I think he can be a plus bat for them. If he's like a 115 OPS plus as opposed to 149 like he was last year, I think that's more in line. But either way, that's still helpful. Like they're putting together a more competent lineup. Xavier Edwards is atop that. He's been a stolen base asset. He is a classic rabbit, though, with 3 homers, 75 runs, and 43 ribbies. So he is speed primarily with a solid average thrown in.
He's diet Nico Hoerner.
Yep, that's the perfect analogy.
Like, he's not Timu because he's still pretty good, right? But he's definitely diet. Like, you aren't getting the full sugar version of Nico Hoerner with Xavier Edwards. So if you like that profile, or if you're getting to this point in the draft and you go, man, I need some speed, I need some batting average, I'll take it. But you're not getting a ton else because
you are getting a 70 pick discount. How does that hit your?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
That's enough, right?
Yeah, if I came into my draft going, hey, I want to get one of Nico Hoerner or Bryce Turang, and I get sniped on them, right? Or if I'm in an auction, and they go more expensive. Okay, I'm going to find a few more runs on a different player, but like I'm going to get all the speed I need and the batting average I was going to get from those two guys in Xavier Edwards. Like I there's nothing wrong with him other than the fact that he like plays on the Marlins. So like the Marlins,
Right.
Like I don't think the Marlins are going to be very good offensively. I don't love a lot of what they've done, but like he's going to play every day. He's going to give you speed. He's going to hit for a pretty decent batting average. But you're going to have to figure out what to do with the power and the RBIs. But if you already have that, and like in some ways, this makes his price makes him more attractive than the other guys because you are deeper in the draft to know where you're at. Like you can have already loaded up on those power guys, that you now need to offset with speed and average guys, right? So like
exactly,
he's actually a fun player to kind of plan for a little bit later. So I like Xavier Edwards. I think he's probably going a little bit too low.
He's priced to buy. Yeah, he's priced to buy for sure.
He's definitely a guy that I'd have no problem grabbing a draft, especially if it fits my team construct.
Yeah, I'm going to co-sign that. Maybe we'll get deeper on him at second base. He has legit eligibility at both, meaning 20-plus games, which is the industry standard. So he'll be second short eligible. And, yeah, I think everything you've said describes how I feel about him, so I don't want to just reiterate that. Let's go over to Bryson Stott with the Phillies, who, was definitely better the year before. I'm trying to remember his numbers. He kind of volumed his way to like an okay season, but I feel like it was disappointing for what people wanted after what he did in 24 when he, that was from 23 to 24. Sorry. Totally wrong timeline on Stott. He basically repeated 24 after falling from the 23 perch. I guess the real question is 23 going to remain his high water mark? And it was mostly due to the average, 280. And he's been at 245, 257 the next 2 years. So where do we go with the average for Stott? Are you planning somewhere in between, or do you lean closer to the lower ones we've seen the last 2 years?
Yeah, he's a true talent, like 250 hitter. Like I just think that's who he is. XBA was 247 last year. In 2024, it was 255. Like, I think that is kind of who he is. He makes a decent amount of contact, but so much of it is weak contact that, like, I don't think we're gonna see him bust out in the way that I think some people in our industry kind of expected him to. But he is kind of a interesting accumulator guy, right? Like, he's not going to give you a ton of power, but he's going to give you 20 plus stolen bases. The average won't hurt you. He plays on a good team, though he hits towards the bottom of the lineup. Like, he's fine for what he is, but like there isn't much upside here.
I agree with that, because if the batting average isn't going to surge, where does it come from for Bryson Stott? Because the power isn't going to, unless he does something unforeseen, I don't see a power surge. Could he maybe get back into the 30s for steals? Yeah, but he had 24 last year. That's fine. So, yeah, I mean, he's boring, but reliable. I will say he's a fake shortstop. He only has 13 games, so we'll talk more about him at second base, especially when we have
the next
Joe.
guy's he's in faker.
Oh, Brendan Donovan, what does he have? 5
6.
games?
Yeah,
6? Okay. We'll save him for second base entirely.
We'll
put that in the notes right now.
Sounds good.
Saved for 2B. But yeah, with Stott, pick 184, I was going to say maybe team need. No, I don't even think it would be team need. I think I would take Xavier Edwards straight up 1-to-1, regardless of what I need.
I would too.
And this is, and I'll save it for second base because I want to compare Stott to Albies, but we'll do that during second base. Let's go to. Actually, let's cut it here. Tier 4, because you got 45 minutes, and that's right around 45. So let's go ahead and cut it here. We'll save Brendan Donovan for second base. We will finish up shortstop tomorrow morning. Justin and I will, going through tier 6 in depth, tier 7 with some depth, and then 8 and 9 we'll kind of gloss over with some favorites that we like, especially those prospects. I'll make you pick one of your favorites there. But otherwise, we'll be done with that. And then on Monday, I think we're going to have Joe on for second base.
We're going to try to go hopefully 3 episodes or more a week.
I think we'll be on 3 starting next week.
And that doesn't include the one with Jason. So you guys will be getting, 4 to 5 episodes potentially a week here, moving all the way through draft season. I know I got a couple questions. People are like, hey, I need more episodes. I'm fiending.
We're coming.
We're ready. We're ready, So
and you guys know that Super Bowl is usually like that full baseball is fully here, and we're only a week and a half away from that. So it's coming. 3 eps per week from us during the weekdays, and then the weekend episode will be live and in charge. I will talk to you tomorrow morning, Justin. Take care.
Take it easy.